not gonna lie, this is a little weird, and it's been like 2 months, so how you guys doing? Welcome back, Gothamites. If you're new here, hello. I'm London, aka History of the Batman. If you aren't new here, you know that I haven't uploaded a video in 2 months, but I have a very legit reason why. January 20th, I had to have a very important emergency surgery, or legit, I could have died, and that's not even an exaggeration. It's really not. And I stayed in the hospital for about a week, and then ever since, for the last month and a half, I've been home recovering. I'm not as mobile or can do much of anything really by myself. I'm still recovering. I'm still not fully out of the woods yet, but I am so much better than I was mentally and physically, actually. And today, I have enough energy, and I'm not in pain, and I'm not tired, where I can do this. I'm very proud of myself, really, that I'm able to just sit and be able to do these videos. I'm really gonna try hard for my next video not to be 2 months later. Of course, that just wasn't the plan. Like, I was gonna finish talking about Tim Fox as the next Batman. That series has already finished, and we're on to the next Batman Second Son already, which I really do want to talk about. So maybe I'll just do a big video putting all of that Tim Jace Fox goodness in there. We'll see. But while I have been literally recovering in bed, because where else am I going? To kind of get myself out of a depressive slump that I had, I've been reading comics, because honestly, reading Batman comics, just engulfing myself as I usually do within the Batman media, is very much therapy for me. It makes me feel better even when I am kind of down in the dumps. So I have been reading a lot of Batman, kind of like what I usually do anyway. I have been rereading some good Elseworlds and limited series that I haven't read in a while, but I kind of noticed that the books that I had been reading aren't the big Batman stories that comic book fans, even non-comic book fans, already know just by hearing the names, from Batman The Dark Knight Returns to Batman Nightfall to Batman Hush. These very popular Batman stories that have kind of been pushed into pop culture just beyond the actual print publication. But some of these that I do want to highlight in this video, and I figured, why not make a whole video talking about these kind of more lesser known, I would almost say obscure Batman stories that every Batman fan should read. So that is what we are talking about today. Now, before we jump into the many fascinating tales of the Batman, why don't you subscribe to this channel and become part of this wonderful Gothamite community? Oh, before we start, I just want to point this out because it just makes me happy. While I was not online, my birthday passed kind of recently, a couple weeks ago, and I received this Batman Black and White statue, which is a Hiro Kuwata Batman manga, black and white. And if you can see in the background, Batman Black and Whites, they're my thing. They're like my favorite, besides Funkos, things to collect. And I have always wanted this one. This isn't necessarily a new Batman Black and White figure, but I haven't had it in my collection, but I've always seen it. I love the Batman mangas from the 1960s. I love most of the Batman media that comes from that era anyway. So honestly, I love this. I'm obsessed with it. I'm so happy that I'm able to have it in my collection. Okay, I just wanted to geek out with somebody that might care about this, because I love it so much anyway. This first story is actually one that I recently covered on History of the Batman's Instagram and Facebook, which, by the way, if you aren't following, please do. It's a grand old time there. Oh, and I didn't even say it on Instagram or anything yet, but History of the Batman's Instagram recently surpassed over 300,000 Gothamites, and honestly, that is a big number for me to comprehend. In fact, there is such a large community that has grown over the last 8 years now on there. I'm always very appreciative. So if you are a Gothamite on Instagram, thank you so much for supporting on that platform as well. And if you aren't, why don't you go follow and join the community? I love being able to discuss Batman and his mythology with others who are just as enthusiastic and enjoy the media as much as I do. It is tons of fun. It wouldn't be half as much fun if I didn't have you guys following. So thank you. I honestly appreciate it. This story is absolutely one that I recommend to everybody. George Pratt wrote and illustrated the DC Comics one-shot graphic novel Batman Harvest Breed in early 2001, which follows Batman and Commissioner Gordon investigating a series of gruesome murders in Gotham that has a clear demonic presence attached. Pratt's haunting and surreal visuals, which is coupled with his writing, illuminates the very bleak past of Gotham City and Batman's own terrifying persona. Honestly, 10 out of 10. The second story is Real World's Batman. Another gem from the early 2000s, Christopher Golden and Tom Sniegoski 2000 one-shot was illustrated by the legendary Marshall Rogers. It's already iconic. Before we even get started, this book was part of a larger DC short-lived series titled Real World, where the reader can observe how DC icons and their mythos can be represented in our own reality. The story follows a 37-year-old man named Charlie who is mentally handicapped, and his love and borderline obsession with Adam West's 1966 Batman has him donning the campy cape and cowl every day. But when his old friend Clarissa, who was the Robin to his Bright Knight back in the day, gets tangled up with the wrong crowd, Charlie believes only Batman can save her. Filled with a lot of heartwarming moments and a very unique look into the evolution of the Batman character and his mythology on the big screen, Real World's Batman showcases how the Batman and his fictional world can truly impact those who enjoy this media in our own universe. Our next story is Batman Mask, which is one that I've actually highlighted in a video that I did a little while ago that discussed classic literature's influence on the Batman universe. Mike Grell and Andre Cromont's 1987 one-shot Batman Mask is set in 1890, where Gotham City's vigilante must stop Harvey Dent, the lead in The Mask of the Red Death, whose scarring experience transformed him into the murderous Phantom of the Opera, who has his sights set on the leading lady and Bruce's love interest, Laura Avion. Using elements from both Gaston Leroux's The Phantom of the Opera and Edgar Allan Poe's 1842 short story, The Mask of the Red Death, Batman Mask is such an underrated story that perfectly mixes classic literature and also the Batman mythology to make a very out-of-the-universe but stellar story. This next one, I love this next one. It is Batman Houdini the Devil's Workshop. Now, if you didn't think that combining the Dark Knight with famed illusionist Harry Houdini wouldn't be just a grand old time, you'd be wrong, my friend, because honestly, it's a ride. In 1993, Howard Chaykin, John Francis Moore, and Mark Chiarello created the one-shot Batman Houdini the Devil's Workshop that follows the Dark Knight investigating the kidnapping of children at the seedy Devil's Workshop in Gotham. Once socialite Bruce Wayne meets Houdini, the duo learn of the oddly supernatural happenings in both upper and lower class areas of Gotham City and aid each other in learning its connection with the missing kids, posting a surprising observation of the working class system within this universe. This one-shot places Batman in the early 1990s, which clearly he always thrives in. There are so many stories where Batman is set within this time era, and all of them are straight fire. Like, I don't know. This is clearly where he belongs. Early 1900s, that's Batman for you. It just fits. And honestly, in the story, Batman being influenced by Houdini's illusions and how he does his own magic and working that into his own crusade just makes my heart so happy. Oh, this next story is Catwoman When in Rome. Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale are a dynamic duo of a creative team when it comes to working within the Batman universe. With their 13-chapter arc, Batman The Long Halloween from 1997, to the early 2000s sequel series, Batman Dark Victory, Selina Kyle's Catwoman travels to Rome, Italy, with the king of conundrums himself, the Riddler, to discover the past of her father in the 2004 to 2005 six-issue arc, Catwoman When in Rome, with artwork to just gush over. Like, do you see these covers? Do you see them? Because they are outstanding. And I would love to have them printed on a poster and put them on my wall. That's how fantastic they are. But this in the interior work brings to life another classic Loeb murder mystery, film noir, just decadent story. And if you are a fan of Selina Kyle's Catwoman or Catwoman in general, you would absolutely love the story. She thrives in the story. And really, if you're a Batman fan at all, or a fan of Jeff Loeb's work, a fan of Tim Sale, really if you're a fan, I highly recommend you checking out Catwoman When in Rome. The next story is Batman Brotherhood of the Bat. Both celebrating the 50th anniversary of their debut this year, the classic and practically immortal Batman villain Ra's al Ghul and his daughter, who just so happens to be Bruce Wayne's baby mama and just a crazy bitch, Talia al Ghul. I'm sorry, I don't like Talia. She is a horrible person. Like, even with the kind of redemption arcs later on, there's just so much evidence throughout her 50 years that just shows she's just a bad person. And maybe I'll do a video just saying why she's a bad person. Happy birthday, girl, because that's not what this part of the video is about. Anyway, this dysfunctional duo of Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams characters are both the focus of Doug Moench's 1995 one-shot Batman Brotherhood of the Bat. In this universe, Bruce Wayne is dead, and Ra's was able to live out his dreams of creating a heavily decreased world population. With this, Ra's wants to use the Batman persona to create his own super assassins force to police Gotham City, then the world. Because honestly, either go big or go home. Don't just stop at terrorizing Gotham. Just do the whole world, fam. That's Raz's MO all the time. World domination. But during Ra's al Ghul's efforts to have this world domination, his daughter Talia has been raising her and Bruce's son named Talent. Now, it's either Talent or Talent. This is how it's spelled. You tell me how to pronounce it because I've never heard it pronounced before. So I'm not trying to just not pronounce it correctly, but that's his name, who decides to fight his grandfather and save Gotham City as the new Dark Knight. Now, if you're a fan of Ra's and Talia, I 100% recommend this. You also get to see a very cool retrospect of all kinds of different costume Batman over the decades. At this point, this is what, mid-90s? So it's still very, very cool. Yes, a solid story involving just awful people. The next story is Batman Digital Justice, which is a true Bat gem from the year 1990, which, that is a lovely year in my opinion. Pepe Moreno Cesares wrote and illustrated this out-of-universe Batman story, which is actually the first Batman comic story to use computer technology instead of traditional drawing. But in 1990, this was all the rage, brand new technology to create a very one-of-a-kind Batman comic experience. In this future, Commissioner Gordon's grandson, James Gordon II, has to track down the source of a computer virus named and created by the Joker, which can weaponize lethal technology and make this now computerized grid of Gotham do its bidding. Fascinated by the urban legend of the Batman, once finding belongings of Bruce Wayne, James Gordon II decides to take up the cape and the cowl and fight this physical battle in an immersive digital space. Inspired by 1990s design trends and color palette, and also having keen observation about what the 21st century virtually had in store for not just our real world, but also the Batman's universe. Batman Digital Justice at the time was a state-of-the-art project that brought the classic Batman lore into a futuristic setting that truly captivated 90s audiences, and honestly, if you read it today, I still think you would be captivated by it as well. Ooh, oh my goodness. Our next story is Batgirl and Robin, Thrill Killer. Man. One of my favorite Batman stories of all time. I'm very comfortable stating that. It's Howard Chaykin and Dan Brereton's 3-issue limited series called Batman Thrill Killer. Released in 1997, but set in the 1960s, restless heiress Barbara Gordon and acrobat Dick Grayson begin a whirlwind romance that leads to them dressing up and becoming the vigilante heroes Batgirl and Robin of Gotham City. This carefree time as a dynamic duo turns really dark when the Joker captures Grayson and ultimately takes his life. And now vengeful Babs teams up with Detective Bruce Wayne, who, in Robin's honor, becomes the Batman. They have a final fight, the deadly clown princess of crime of Gotham's underground. From Joker's female characterization to the whimsical art style that matches the very free love vibes presented in this story, Thrill Killer is such a fun, out-of-universe Batman tale. Like, don't you just want to read fun stories like this that are just a little much? But Batman is a little much. Ooh, this one. Oh, yes. It is Batman, the Doom that came to Gotham. Man. Batman Gotham by Gaslight illustrator Mike Mignola pins this late 2000s story, Batman, the Doom that came to Gotham, that is illustrated by Troy Nixie, with the storyline and aesthetic of classic Batman villains inspired by the tales of H.P. Lovecraft. Set in the Victorian era, the Batman has to go up against supernatural monsters that are terrorizing Gotham. Now, if you're a fan of Batman and also the science fiction works of Lovecraft, which, by the way, related, unrelated, I don't know, but I am rewatching Lovecraft Country on HBO Max, and I love that series. It's so brilliant. But honestly, pick up this book. Like, pick it up, check it out, pick up this trade. Also, randomly, I have the physical trade of this because the last time I went to go visit the DC Comics headquarters in Burbank, they gave me a whole bunch of trades because they love me. No. But yeah, it was very cool. Now, our last story is literally, out of all of these, one of the most underrated DC stories that I almost don't understand why it doesn't get more praise. Just the crafting of this book and the other books that are within this DC series. In the late 1990s, there was a DC series that mixed the characters and mythos of the Trinity, DC's Trinity, which is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, with the German expressionist art movement of the early 20th century. And these stories are outstanding. The creators of this were Jean-Marc Lofficier, Randy Lofficier, and Ted McKeever. And one of these 3 stories was March 1999's Batman Nosferatu. Set on Earth in 1927 within the DC multiverse, when one of Dr. Arkham's cruel experiments on Arkham Asylum patients goes horribly wrong, Metropolis attorney Dirk Grayson is killed, leading his friends Bruce Wayne's son and Barbara Gord's son to investigate. A trip to the asylum turns into Bruce being trapped and transformed into the nocturnal creature Nosferatu, where a battle ensues between him and both Dr. Arkham and this universe's Superman. Inspired by Robert Wiene's 1920 German expressionist horror film, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which also starred Conrad Veidt, who, if you aren't familiar, is the visual inspiration for the Joker's design all the way back in 1940. 1940. And also this book is lightly inspired by F.W. Murnau's 1922 film, Nosferatu, A Sympathy of Horror. Batman Nosferatu is a dark visual roller coaster that places our Caped Crusader in a very unusual time and space, which can be said about most, if not all, of these slightly or very obscure Batman stories that we have covered in this video. But no matter how obscure or unknown they are, all of these Batman tales by these wonderful creative teams are just so brilliant. And I honestly recommend you guys checking them out and adding them to your own personal collection and widening your own knowledge of the Batman's very incredible 82-year history. Thank you guys so much for watching this video about 10 of the most obscure Batman comics that you must read. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. As always, all of my social media is linked in the description below, including Instagram @HistoryOfTheBatman. So why don't you go and follow and become a Gothamite? Check out the rest of my videos on this channel. And of course, please subscribe to this channel so you can become part of this Batman community. It would mean so much to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm very glad to be back doing videos. And I promise I will do my best to have more History of the Batman very, very soon, right here on YouTube. Remember, Gothamites, all about peace, love, and Batman. Bye.